He was one of the most famous, respected, and influential philosophers of all time. Atlantis enthusiasts know him for his parable about it. His social structure theory had a governing class, warriors and workers. He thought that human soul contained reason, spirit, and appetite. He may have founded an institution of learning known as the Academy. He is Plato. Plato was born around the year 428 BCE in Athens, Greece, the son of Aristotle and Pericton, both of Athenian noble backgrounds. He lived his whole life in Athens, although he traveled to Sicily and southern Italy on several occasions. He was given the finest education Athens had to offer noble families, and he devoted his considerable talents to politics and the writing of tragedy and other forms of poetry. His acquaintance with Socrates altered the course of his life. The power that Socrates' methods and arguments had over the minds of the youth of Athens gripped Plato as firmly as it did many others, and he became a close associate of Socrates. The end of the Peloponnesian War, which caused the destruction of Athens by the Spartans, left Plato in a terrible position. His uncle Critias was the leader of the 30 tyrants who were installed in power by the victorious Spartans. Thus Socrates, as we learn in Plato's Apology, was ordered to arrest a man and bring him to Athens from Salamis for execution. When the great teacher refused, his life was threatened, and he was probably saved only by the overthrow of the 30 tyrants and the re-establishment of the democracy. Plato was a student and follower of Socrates until 399, when the condemned Socrates died after drinking the prescribed cup of hemlock. It is through Plato that we are most familiar with Socrates' philosophy, because he wrote dialogues in which his teacher took part, usually asking leading questions, the Socratic method. Plato's Apology is his version of the death of Socrates. Plato welcomed the restoration of the democracy, but his mistrust was deepened some 4 years later when Socrates was tried on false charges and sentenced to death. He then turned in disgust from Athenian politics and never took an active part in government, although through friends he did try to influence the course of political life in the Sicilian city of Syracuse. Plato and several of his friends withdrew from Athens for a short time after Socrates' death and remained with Euclid in Megara. His productive years were highlighted by 3 voyages to Sicily and his writings, all of which have survived. When Plato returned to Athens, he began to teach in the Gymnasium Academy, and soon afterward acquired property nearby and founded his famous academy, which survived until the early 6th century CE. At the center of the academy stood a shrine to the Muses, and at least one modern scholar suggests that the academy may have been a type of religious brotherhood. Plato had begun to write the dialogues, which came to be the basis of his philosophical teachings, some years before the founding of the academy. To this early period, Plato wrote the Laches, which deals with courage, Charmides with common sense, Euthyphro with pity, Lysis with friendship, Protagoras with the teaching of virtues or goodness, and many others. The Apology and Crito stand somewhat apart from the other works of this group in that they deal with historical events. Socrates' trial and the period between his conviction and execution. Plato's own great contributions begin to appear in the second group of writings, which date from the period between his first and second voyages to Sicily. The Meno, Charis, and the question of teachability, of virtue, which dealt within Protagoras and introduces the teaching of anamnesis, which plays an important role in Plato's view of the human's ability to learn the truth. When Plato died in 347 BC, after Philip II of Macedonia had begun his conquest of Greece, leadership of the academy passed not to Aristotle, who had been a student and then teacher there for 20 years and who expected to follow, but to Plato's nephew, Speusippus. The academy continued for several more centuries. Plato's Symposium contains ideas on love held by various philosophers and other Athenians. It entertains many points of view, including the idea that people were originally doubled. This idea explains sexual references. In the Middle Ages, Plato was known mostly through Latin translations of Arabic translations and commentaries. In the Renaissance, when Greek became more familiar, far more scholars studied Plato. Since then, he has had an impact on math and science, morals, and political theory. Plato's third and final voyage to Syracuse was made some time before 357 BCE, and he tried for the second time to influence the young Dionysius II. Plato was not as successful and was held in semi-captivity before being released. Plato died in 347 BCE, the founder of an important philosophical school which existed for almost 1,000 years, and the most brilliant of Socrates' many pupils and followers. His system attracted many followers in the centuries after his death and resurfaced as Platonism, the great rival of early Christianity.